Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode 121.
Damn, girl.
Look at me with my numbers. But I will tell you, I had a moment of panic as I saw that number. It was like, I thought I was going to be fine once we were out of the teens. Apparently not. There is a number blockage in my head. I'm an intelligent person, but apparently not with numerals.
You know what? That's okay, though.
Okay.
Like, there's just certain things people have blockage, but I can't pronounce names. You
That's
can't
true.
pronounce numbers. It's
Thank
fine.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Back to the theme of this episode, which is
Uh-huh.
Groove is in the Heart.
Groove is in the heart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of our new fall theme because we've moved out of the summer.
We're moved out of the
80s
80s
pop
vibes.
hits.
Mhm.
So we decided, and you decided, I should say, on a new theme for this fall, which is
One-hit wonders.
yes.
Because it felt good to have a theme.
It felt really good to have a
Good.
theme.
It seemed great.
Yeah.
But we needed something new. We needed something
something
fresh.
new. Yeah. We needed something for the pumpkin spice season.
Which is supposed to be a one-hit wonder and won't die.
It wasn't.
Won't die.
It keeps producing albums that no one wants to hear.
Do you want to know a funny story about pumpkin spice?
Obviously.
I have never tried a pumpkin spice thing until last
It's real
fall
gross. Yeah.
when Mike and I went on vacation around our anniversary. It was the day we were coming back. We were in the airport. There's a Starbucks. For whatever reason, I said, today's the day I'm going to pull the trigger
Today's
on
the day.
pumpkin spice. Mm-hmm. And I pulled the trigger and we sat down and Mike's like, well? And I was like, mediocre at best.
It's too sweet. It's too
weird.
like it's real weird.
trying
on the tongue.
too hard.
It's trying too hard. You can feel it on your tongue. Trying too hard,
It's
like
trying
doing some
too hard.
calisthenics or
Yeah.
something for flavor. No, I don't
No,
like it.
Give me my plain old latte because
Yeah.
you're trying too hard. I
Word.
don't like it. It's like I'm at the club and you rubbed up on me. And I'm not going home with you, pumpkin spice. So stop it. Stop it.
Stop being slutty, pumpkin spice.
Stop it. You're not willing to buy me a drink, but you're trying to grab my butt. I don't like it, pumpkin spice.
Why are you a douchebag, pumpkin spice?
Pumpkin spice. Get it together.
God, wow,
God.
we're really coming in hard on pumpkin
We are,
spice.
sorry.
But I mean,
And
it's
off
mid-September.
topic to one-hit wonders. Off topic. So obviously the theme is just we're going to use songs by people that are considered
Yeah.
one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
But the song we picked,
Yeah.
Groove is in the Heart, we're going to use as a way to talk about leading with emotion.
Yeah.
Or maybe, emotions taking the front when
Yeah,
maybe they
leading
should
with
or
your
shouldn't.
heart, absolutely.
Yes.
All the good and bad of that, which I
Yeah.
thought was brilliant.
Which-
And also, this song is epic.
It is epic. Delight.
Delight.
D.
And I
Light.
think there were maybe another song or two by Delight, but I have no idea what they were. I know every damn word of this song, though.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
A true one-hit wonder.
Yes.
A true one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Thinking of one-hit wonders. Aaron, do you think it's worse to be a one-hit wonder or never have a huge hit as a band?
I think it's worse to have a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Here's why. Okay. You know what? There's a caveat.
Oh.
If it's a one-hit wonder that is just like you can retire for the rest of your life,
Yeah, that's true.
congratulations. That's the dream.
Yeah.
You did it once. You have to tour for like a year. You cash in. You never have to do anything else.
Royalties forever?
That doesn't really feel like what a one-hit wonder is, though.
No.
I feel like it's worse to have that because you're getting like a little bit of taste of the good life. Like you could be popular, people love this. There's a period of time where you're at the height, and then you go back, and that pressure hits,
Yeah.
and you're like, if we don't have another hit, we're a one-hit wonder.
Yep.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. It's over.
That's a good point. You're right.
Because at some point, like when you're a certain level of artist, take like Beyonce.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Beyonce phones it in, so don't at me, Beehive. Okay, I'm not saying that.
We
but
would
what I'm
never dare say that.
No, but what I'm saying is, I think there's a little more grace extended.
Absolutely.
If she misses the mark on a song, there's going to be a group just likes it just because she's on it.
Yes.
Where with a one-hit wonder, after that first one, your next one has to be better.
Yeah. Because then there's a anger reaction.
Yes.
If they try anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, you're just destined to be on on a compilation tour someday that's retro with a whole bunch of moms having mom's night out with wine in a can, throwing their bras on stage. And
And
you're
hey,
like,
maybe that's okay for you, sirs, but probably not.
It's probably not what the
You're
dream
wishing
is.
that you were living like, Def Leppard 80s dreams with cocaine and groupies everywhere.
Yes.
And you just didn't get
You
it.
can't. Not if you just
No.
have one hit.
Yeah.
Now,
that's a
some
bummer.
people, one-hit wonders, which I'm sure we'll get into as this fall season progresses, deserve to be one-hit wonders.
Sure.
But I don't know, D-Light.
Even the one hit that they had are terrible.
Yeah.
This song I enjoyed quite a bit growing
I
up.
did too.
Yeah.
I did too. Okay, so thinking about one-hit wonders, is there something you would consider a one-hit wonder in your life? Something that you did once and not going to happen again?
I have a list.
Oh, okay. Yes. I love a
So
list.
I was thinking job wise.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I did telemarketing in college. I waited for you to take a sip to see if this would be a spit take. And
I did.
in fact, do
I
it.
spit
That's
a little coffee out.
wonderful.
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was a telemarketer for maybe a couple weeks when
That tracks.
when I realized like, okay, I had a bad feeling going in and I have a worse feeling now. This is terrible. I'm sure I can find another shitty job somewhere where I don't have to call randos.
Yes.
So there's that one. Sports, pretty much all sports.
Oh.
Basketball, tennis. The only sport that I continued with was one where I didn't really have to compete against. I mean, I was in races, like I was in track and cross country, but it's
That's
like it doesn't really matter.
No,
Like
it's not the same
it's
kind
not
of competitive.
the same.
Yeah.
No, and I was never good enough to be like in the top 3 anyway. Okay. Then there's like outdoor activities, camping, boating. I've tried them all. I hate them with every fiber of my being. So they were one-hit wonders.
Did
and
it
they
once
shall
and I'm done.
continue to be one-hit wonders because they weren't wonderful.
Yeah.
So they were just one-hits.
I feel like we don't do enough of that as an adult, where we like get caught up in this like this idea that we're supposed to like something. So then we continue to do it even though we hate it and it's awful and it's stressful. It's like, well, if I don't like it, I don't like it. Camping's a great example. I don't like it. I don't want to
so
do it.
gross.
You're not going to guilt me into camping.
No.
I have a house. I have a bed. I have no desire to sleep outside. I literally pay someone to make sure bugs don't get into my home.
Exactly.
So why would I go sleep with them?
Why would I go do that? Just every part of it is disgusting.
Yeah. It's not, I just, no.
And every part of being on a boat is just terrible.
Yeah. It can
I
be
feel
scary.
nauseous. I feel scared. I regret every choice in my life that's brought me to a boat.
That's fair. It's always too hot or too cold or
Yeah.
too wet or too dry. Or it's just, there's never a,
Yeah, and I've had a number of particular experiences. Like I did a sailboat in the Pacific when I was 18.
Oh.
Like I went to San Diego with my mom for some reason, and like we go out on this boat, and both of us were just puking the entire 3 or 4 hours. It was
no.
disgusting. And then I think I told you about the Coke boat incident
Yeah.
in Chicago. Yeah, where halfway through the boat, I realized, oh, this was financed by cocaine sales, and also they're not letting us go, and it's really bad. I'm puking.
yeah,
It's not good.
That's not great. Yeah.
Hence my hatred of boats.
That's fair. That's 100% fair.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. So all of those shall remain one hits
One hit wonders.
and never be wonderful.
no.
No. Got another question for you, Erin.
Yeah.
Thinking about crime. There's no real transition to crime.
Yeah.
It's always on our minds. Crime.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always.
So thinking about like leading with the heart, right? I feel like sometimes that idea of like being, with your heart on your sleeve, like living in that way, you can get made fun of. You can get ridiculed. It can get weaponized against you in a way. So we've talked a number of times about like true crime things that we've watched or true crime books that we've read where people who are going through like a court case or something like that, they're being scrutinized for their emotions. They're being looked at very carefully and like, oh, they're being too emotional or they're not being emotional enough.
Yes.
Or they're not any of that like stuff. Do you think, using that sort of telescopic look at emotions and then somehow it relates to like their sentence, what do you think about that?
I think usually that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
I just think that there's too many factors in any emotional response. I think that we do too much of that even outside of true crime where we say, well, they didn't react the way I wanted them to react, which is such a misnomer. And we never seem to recognize that. Like, if you think about yourself and emotional reactions I have to things, I'm cognizant enough to know that not everyone's going to react that way because they're not bringing in my experiences or my thought processes. So their reaction is going to be different. And I feel the same, and I feel like it's even more true in high stress situations, which are usually criminal investigations. Either you were there when a body was found, it's a loved one, something, and they're attributing all this focus to how that person reacted in that situation, and there's just no way to handle that. And I also feel like a lot of times in criminal investigations that we put this emphasis on like a gut instinct, and to me that's not what a gut instinct is. It's gut instinct's gone wrong. It's like it's detectives saying like, well, I had this gut instinct and I knew by his face that this wasn't right. Well, none of that's not valid. And that's part of what's wrong with the whole system. And I feel like we've gotten to this place where we don't understand that gut instincts are actually just meant for your own internal decision making.
Yeah.
Like my gut's telling me something's wrong, so I need to check with my head and say, what about this isn't working for me, and go from there. A gut instinct is not for me to have a gut instinct to say something that Amy's doing is wrong, because I can't make that call. I'm not in your head. I don't know your emotions. I don't know what's happening. And I feel like people get, especially when you watch true crime shows, you can see where it goes bad, where they're like, well, he didn't cry. I mean, he just found his wife dead and he didn't cry. It's like, well, how do you know that that's what would happen?
Everyone grieves differently.
Exactly.
First off, yeah.
Or reacts to shock and trauma differently, you know, or has different emotions. You know, we always assume that everyone's going to feel terrible about certain things. Maybe they did have a terrible relationship and they don't feel sad.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't mean that they killed him.
Right. And I mean, yeah, in an emergency situation, you might be setting aside your emotions at the time to deal with whatever's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just has never struck me as a valid, and I hate it always when I see that in a show, in a book, and then that's why they choose that line of investigation, is because they didn't like this person's reaction, and it just feels so middle school to me.
And I think we overestimate our ability to decipher other people's faces and emotions.
Yes.
Like, we think we are so good at it, especially maybe because true crime is such a thing and we're so used to watching it now. We think we've got it all figured out. But as you and I know, we try to control our face sometimes.
Yes.
Because we don't want people to know the turmoil that is going on inside.
No. Which, speaking of this, I mean, you're basically using someone's emotions against them. You're weaponizing them.
And also, remember, like way back in our podcast, like one of our first episodes, we did one on church giggles.
Yeah.
About like the inappropriate emotions that we often have. Like, it's completely like discounting that idea too.
Yeah. I mean, we've all known someone that like reacts inappropriately in difficult situations. Like they either laugh or they get weird or whatever.
Yeah, laugh at a funeral,
That's
something
fine.
like that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
that's our body just like, you know,
exactly.
not sure what to do.
I don't know what's happening, so here I am.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can all admit that there are times that our bodies have betrayed us.
Oh, God.
So.
Oh, man. I was thinking about myself, but also I was thinking about you. Your Tom has betrayed you on so many occasions. So many times. Oh.
It's amazing we still have
you forgiven your Tom for Heavesgate?
You have to.
Yeah, you have to.
Or you're destined to have a Heavesgate all the time. I've just decided that, look, it's its own entity.
It is.
And every once
She's
in a
a fickle
while,
bitch.
it just sometimes needs attention.
Yeah.
And it's clear I haven't been giving it to it.
Yeah.
And so then it's just going to rebel.
It's having a tantrum.
That's the price I have to pay for not, fostering the relationship better.
So you're taking the blame
Yes.
for not fostering
I have no choice.
the relationship with
Because
your Tom.
I can't apparently bring my Tom to its knees, but
No.
my Tom can bring me to my knees.
She sure can.
And
when
by
she
knees,
decides
I mean
to.
in front of a toilet.
Yeah,
thinking
puking for 24 hours.
24 hours straight.
Yeah.
Which also means nothing's coming out. I just look like a cat.
Yeah.
Just back arching. And then over.
Which just sounds exhausting.
It's really worst case scenario.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that, you've come to sort of an arrangement with your Tom. Mm-hmm. She's a... You got to watch out for her.
Fickle mistress. Fickle. Well, okay, we all know my Tom's betrayed me, but have you ever had like emotions or a feeling weaponized or used against you?
Yeah, and I think, I think you and I, outside of the podcast, have numerous discussions about this, about people that have supposedly loved us, that have treated us in this way, right? But for the example here today, I have sort of a smaller one where I decided to go vegan like 8 years ago due to understanding how factory farming worked and because I can't handle animal cruelty. Because there's something in me that just, as we know with my cat weirdness, can't handle animals in pain. Right.
Fair.
So when I decided to eat vegan, again, people have weird reactions for no real good reason, right? But I had that sort of like emotion. I had to lie to a lot of people about my reasoning, first of all, because I knew that if I admitted it was about animal cruelty, I'd be called weak. I would be called a pussy. I'd be called all of these things, silly, like, she's just so sensitive kind of thing. Which I did at first. I lied about it and talked about it as like for wellness or for like the climate or whatever,
right.
which is all valid.
It's valid, but
it
I
wasn't
get
the primary reason.
Right, I understand.
Over time, as this proved not to be a phase, increasingly people understood that it was about animal cruelty, and all of those things were leveled at me. That I was weak, that I was silly, that, I was un-American, really.
That's my favorite argument against veganism is you're un-American. Like, we're somehow defined by our ability to eat beef.
Yeah. And there have been people who seem to take pride in the fact that we murder all these animals to give us food.
Yeah.
Like, that's an American thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And listen, that's your thing, that's fine. But that's not who I am.
And that should be okay too.
That should be okay.
Matter. It's just to me, it's the same thing as saying like, I don't eat mushrooms. I don't like mushrooms. I just don't eat them. I don't like them. Whatever. Why is it any different? Mm-hmm. Who am I to tell you that you need to put that in your body? No matter what the reasons are for why you got there. I don't drink milk. I don't want anyone coming at me trying to force me to drink milk. Like, it grosses me out to a level that I can't handle.
Yeah.
So I logically, I just don't understand that. I've witnessed some weird situations with you in veganism, and it is constantly befuddling to me.
And again, this is small on the scale of it, but it is about most of the reactions I've gotten have been sort of weaponizing emotion, like taking that idea of me being upset about animal cruelty or about the ethical nature of it, and then saying, what a pussy.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank
what
you.
A great society we live in.
Horrific.
I'm so glad that compassion is bad. It's terrible. It's weak.
I don't understand.
What a silly little
things.
woman.
You
Caring
are a
about
silly
animals.
Woman.
Good God. Just
What
run
are
over
you
them.
doing?
Just kill them.
Yeah. Be done with it.
Yeah.
Be done. It is a constant source of amazement for me.
But generally, just that idea of weaponizing emotion, it feels like such an American thing, too.
It does. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of our political...
Oh, heart attack city just happened. What happened there? I missed it, but there was some sort of fallout with the cats that... Whew.
So there is a Chewy.com box that arrives every month.
Okay.
It's a big box full of cat food and various supplies. Mm-hmm. That box then becomes a cat toy for the podcast.
Okay.
It becomes the hot toy of the season.
Hot box summer.
Right?
Ooh, that might have meant something else. Sorry. That was...
But good old Thelma, listen, she's a big lady.
She is.
She sometimes is a little hesitant to throw her girth into various places, and then sometimes she's a little overconfident.
Okay.
I think what we just witnessed was her trying to get into the box.
Oh, and it slid.
And it slid.
Okay. I didn't know if there was another cat involved that I couldn't see on the other side of the wall, but it scared me. It was, because she's normally so quiet while we're recording.
Quiet.
She was sleeping for a good hour just on her back. And
again, just like last week, she knows the microphones are on. For some reason, by recording downstairs instead of upstairs as usual, these cats are fascinated.
They are. They're fascinated by the whole scenario.
Anyway.
Well.
Weaponizing emotion.
I'm weaponizing emotion.
I'm not weaponizing your emotion, podcats. You do you. You be as fickle and weird and... Mm-hmm. Well, listen.
Yeah.
I've got some picks to go along with our theme.
Yes.
Because this is how it works.
This is what we do. As we've established in the last couple episodes, we finally hit our stride. We finally have a format, and we feel good about it. We're going to keep doing it.
Still can't say numbers, but we're getting there. Getting there.
Small details.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for my fiction pick, I've got a book called Eleutheria by Allegra Hyde, which I love that name, by the way.
It's so good.
Allegra Hyde.
Yeah.
This came out earlier this year. And our main character is Willa, who grew up in the middle of nowhere with parents who had isolated themselves because of their conspiracy theories.
Oof. Okay.
So, they are legit survivalists.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, Willa grows up with just doom and gloom everywhere because her parents keep talking about the idea that the world is fucked. There's just no going back. So, you might as well just hunker down, train with your guns, prepare for the apocalypse.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Yeah. So that's her upbringing. But then when she's a teenager, her parents die. And Willa has to enter the real world. Mm-hmm. She moves in with a distant cousin, gets a dead-end job, is just sort of surviving, trying to get used to this world that supposedly, was the devil. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting and fascinating, though, is that despite her upbringing, Willa has this sense of hope and this desire to make change. Like that was never ground out of her by her parents. She wants to find a way to save the world from rising ocean levels, from climate change catastrophe, all of that. So then she finds a book about fighting climate change, and it's called Living the Solution. And when she reads it, she feels a click, and she buys in hard to the author's message and to his plan to build a community of eco-warriors in the Bahamas called Camp Hope. So Willa has just been... Yep. If you're feeling red flags, that is a good reaction. So Willa has just been betrayed by the woman she loves, named Sylvia. She really has no family left. So she gets a one-way ticket to Eleutheria, which is the island in the Bahamas. She wants to save the world, and she's sure that when she shows up, the author of that book and the leader of Camp Hope, Roy Adams, will know that she's his secret weapon.
Oh, no.
But immediately, things are off.
Oh, no.
The people there are suspicious. Roy Adams is missing.
Oh, no!
And things start increasingly going off the rails. And for all of us savvy cult aficionados, there will be all sorts of red flags and alarm bells ringing as you get into this section. So don't really want to say more than that.
Right, yeah.
Plenty to there's some great twists. There's a great story, really lovely writing along the way. And I chose it for this theme because I think what Willa wants to do is to lead with her heart, to lead with emotion. No matter that she grew up with like really paranoid survivalists, she wants to do something different.
Sure.
She has this hope. She wants to do good. She's young. She has nothing to lose. And unfortunately, there's people who's going to take advantage of that. So the story becomes, can she hold on to hope, to hold on to emotion, to love through disappointment, through disaster, through all of the things that might happen when you are butting up against a potential cult?
Ooh. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And there's so much here to think about in terms of, obviously we've read a lot about cults. We've talked a lot about it because they're fascinating.
So fascinating.
And here it's that idea, like, it's a good idea, trying to better the world, trying to, do something good for climate change, everything. But of course, there's people involved. There's a person that's the leader who has all sorts of other motives going on. So it's never something pure, even though Willa's looking for that, right? So it's it's really complicated, really engaging, and I ended up tearing through it, and it was really good.
Yeah, sounds great. What an interesting premise. I like that idea. Right? Kind of like you're something that on the surface should seem good that kind of tricks you into something else. Like,
and I love that idea that even though you're raised a certain way, you can still have an innate sense of something else. You can still know that something is wrong, or you can still know I really like that.
Well, my fiction pick this week is called Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance by Alison Esbach. And this was published in May of this year. And this is a gripper of a story. Such an interesting premise, and I love the format. As we all know, I'm kind of a sucker for different kinds of format. But so this book opens with our main character and narrator, Sally Holt. And Sally has an older sister, and we learn fairly quickly that the two are close, but they're also going through the normal growing pains of being siblings, where one older and one a little younger. And the main part of the story takes place when Sally is about to enter 8th grade. Kathy's a few years older. So Kathy, her older sister, has been in love with this guy named Billy Barnes since elementary school. Just, as we all have like a little crush, just obsessed with him. Now that they're older, they go to the community pool one day, really hot in the summer. They're there all day. Billy Barnes happens to work there in the concession stand. And Sally decides that she's going to go off the diving board, but she hits her head. And so when she hits the water, she's unconscious. Oh. And the lifeguard happens to be decided to take a smoke break at that time. And Billy seems to be the only one that notices this. So he runs, gets in the water, saves her. Everybody's so happy. And Kathy and Sally's mom's way to thank him is to have him over for dinner. Like, you should come over for dinner. And this is set back some years.
Okay.
So like during the a big part of this happens around when Clinton was supposedly going to get impeached for the Monica thing. So right around that time period. So he comes over, and from that moment on, Kathy and him are an item. They start dating, and Sally's, the younger sibling, enjoying watching it, all of these things. And they head into summer. They're still going strong, headed into the school year, and the tragedy of all tragedies happen. And I won't tell you exactly what that is, but leave it to say that Kathy's gone, and Sally and Billy are left, and their families are kind of left picking up the pieces. And so the novel's formatted as notes written by Sally to her sister Kathy. Not like dear Kathy notes, but like I'm taking notes on things. Like this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And you get before, during, and after Kathy's death of these notes that are being written to her sister. So it actually spans a full 15 years. It follows Sally into adulthood. Kind of you see through her eyes what's happening to their family from losing this child and what happened to her as the younger sister. And it's so impactful. There are times where it's just like gut punch after gut punch, and then there are other times that it's tender. But what I really loved about it is that for a novel that has such a big emotional topic, it's almost like slow and quiet. Like you really feel like you're living in it with the characters. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I picked it for this theme because the heart of the novel is really about emotions and what happens when we ignore them. Whether we lead with them or not, what happens when we push them down and fight against them. And then what happens when we just decide to accept that's the way we feel and I'm going to react that way moving forward. It is, like I said, there's a lot of parts that are really touching and kind of hard. But also, I loved this idea of kind of the younger sister's perspective in this family that is sort of broken beyond repair after these things happen. Her relationship with Billy is very interesting as they, Billy's obviously older than her, but as they get older, that age gap is less important. And so their kind of relationship changes. And it's just a really interesting read. And like I said, it's not one that I would label propulsive in that you're like, oh, I got to find out. It's more just like you just want to know how they're doing, kind of. You just kind of want to feel like you can keep checking in.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but it really well done, really impactful story. So highly recommend, and a great example of trying to fight against emotion, and then ultimately, when you accept it, it's easier to deal with everything else that's going on.
Do you think that's what part of emotional intelligence is accepting different emotions?
I think it is. I think it's also, a big part of an emotional intelligence is knowing what emotions are true and not.
Yeah.
Like a lot of emotions are masked. We have a reaction to something, but it's really because we're feeling a different way.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of emotional intelligence is being able to take a beat and say, is this how I truly feel, or is it because of XYZ? And then being able to react appropriately. Just because you have emotions doesn't give you a green light to act or do however you want.
Yeah.
So you have to be emotionally intelligent enough to recognize where it's coming from and react in an emotionally appropriate way. And I think that's very difficult for most people.
Absolutely. I think just understanding how you yourself feel about things is so freaking difficult.
Yes.
And then to try and figure out like how to convey that to other people, how to manage other people's emotional reactions. Like it's
a lot.
Freaking exhausting.
It's hard to unpack an emotion and say, okay, well, this is how I feel, because it's easier to stick with that first feeling, right?
Yeah,
I'm angry. But why am I angry? I'm angry because I feel insulted. I'm angry because I feel ashamed. I'm angry because I feel sad. And then why do I feel that way? Well, I feel that way because I'm insecure about XYZ. You really have to take the time, and that's not possible for most people.
No, and there's levels of things that some people aren't willing to accept. Like if you drill down and like, oh, I'm angry because I'm insecure, some people can't get there. They don't want to get there. They can't get there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let's just stick with anger.
Yeah, that's it more. Yeah. Oh, and like we talked about weaponizing, there's certain emotions that are more accepted.
Yes.
And anger is one we're willing to accept for some reason, lock, stock, and barrel, which has always fascinated me because anger is actually probably the fakest of emotions. Yes. There's actually usually something underneath the anger. But yet it's the one in society we're most willing to say, yeah, you should be angry about that, and willing to like give a pass.
You're right. Anger's like all shock and awe.
Yeah.
Whereas underneath we're like, just need a hug.
Right.
Just need a fucking hug.
I know we could all probably name 15 instances off the top of our head where if we had done something or watched someone else react differently, like just take a beat and explain what they're feeling, how something would have gone differently.
Absolutely.
And it, blew up instead because no one took the time to do that.
Well, it's interesting too, because some people like their initial thing is anger, and I'm realizing like more and more mine is just to like shut down, just complete shutdown, complete like dissociation until like maybe a few hours later, more like a few days, few weeks later, do I realize, oh, I know what was going on there. Like it takes a really long time.
Right.
but there's a part of your brain that just shuts it off. In some ways you can shut it off into anger, and some ways you can shut it off into, I'm just going to curl into a turtle shell and just hide.
Which is kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. What do you think about this? Like, when we talk about emotional intelligence and that, so do you think that there's a balance? Like, you should lead with emotion sometimes and sometimes you shouldn't? Or should you always lead with emotion or never lead with emotion? Is there different aspects in life you should and shouldn't lead with emotion?
Yeah. That's like the essential question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And increasingly, I think those lines are blurred, because you would think, like in work, for example, like the better ways to go through rationality, to try and look at things logically. But increasingly, companies are pushing you to be authentic and to bring your emotion and your passion to work, which, okay.
Yeah, easy.
There's that. Yeah. But so I think those lines are blurred, because increasingly you're wanting to be more emotional or more like in touch with your emotions everywhere. But I don't think that's great. I think it's okay to shut it off sometimes.
I do too. I think that's another component of emotional intelligence is knowing when this emotion isn't going to serve you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as a society, it's just facts. Like, there's times in business that I want to do things differently, but I shut it off because I know that that's the tender part of me, or the part that cares. And then that's the part that gets taken advantage of. So sometimes I have to shut it off and just be a stone cold bitch.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. It doesn't make me feel good about it. Like, I don't feel good sometimes when I do that, but sometimes it's just a necessity.
I think you and I both, we don't like feeling inauthentic.
Right.
So acting in some way that's not necessarily the right emotion, or the emotion that, is welcome at that time, feels weird. I had another thought and then it went away.
Well, if it comes up, you can.
It was going to be a good one too.
Well, I bet
I can just tell you it was going to be great.
Well, I believe it.
I'm looking off into the distance trying to remember what it was. Come back to me, thought.
Come back.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay. Well, it'll come back at some point. Maybe tomorrow. But if it's still while we're on air, then we should
when
stop.
I'm editing this, maybe I can just stop it, and record the thought, and then like find some footage of you laughing.
Yeah.
Put that in.
Okay. Yeah. You can call me and tell me what it is, and I'll have a reaction.
Perfect.
And then you can put that in. Yeah.
Listen, I'm just saying it was going to be great.
Well, I bet your other genre pick is great.
It is.
How'd I know? It's like I've done this 120 times.
121, Aaron.
Well,
Come on now.
120. Yeah, yes. True.
So my other genre pick is actually a novella, sort of a hybrid thing too.
Can I tell you how much I love the word novella?
Isn't it great?
Why do I love that word so much?
I don't know.
It's
and
so
how
fun.
did we come to like novella to say that it's shorter than a novel?
But not as short as a short story.
Right. It's such a weird, arbitrary thing, but I love it.
Yeah. It's surprised that we don't. Okay, so we have short story, we have novel. It's surprised that there wasn't a hybrid of those. Right. Like a short novel. Like instead of, but we came up with novella, and I love it.
You love it. Yeah.
Love it.
Well, this novella.
Is telenovela.
Is called Keen. Keen.
Yes. Okay.
By Aaron Stalcup, and this came out in 2021. So first, let's picture one of our Midwest Christian funerals. Okay.
Woo.
Very quiet, very stiff upper lip, very fake smile, lots of casseroles.
So many casseroles.
One thing we are not used to, I would say, at funerals is excessive emotion. Right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
Like, at least at the ones that I've been at, it's very much like, keep yourself together, maybe cry a little bit, but anything else.
Oh, no, so you got to have the appropriate amount of crying depending on your relationship
to
the person.
Nice tears coming down, but you can't start sobbing. You can't start to, because good Lord, you're making
Don't throw yourself on the casket.
Nope, can't do any of that. Even at a place that it actually makes sense to like lead with emotion.
Right.
Okay. So then picture this. In many cultures, but specifically in old Ireland, keening was expected and even welcomed. And keening is very dramatic, explosive, crying and screaming and singing and all the things to sort of convey the grief that you're going through. And in fact, there were professional keeners, women that were hired to mourn this way at funerals, to sort of act as like a focal point for everyone's grief. Like, everyone is going through their own thing, but then there's this central figure who is just making a huge show of grief. And in that way, you can sort of like, it's almost cathartic in that way. In this book, we're in an alternate reality where this old custom still exists. And Maeve McNamara is the most famous keener in the world.
Oh.
And the book is told in a we voice.
Okay.
And it's a group of people who adore Maeve. Like, she is a star. Okay. We watch her hit all the famous funerals, which including Queen Elizabeth's.
Oh.
Interesting.
Weird. Okay.
And put on these massive shows. Like, she attends all these celebrity funerals, all these like Dalai Lama type funerals, like state funerals.
Okay.
And like I said, she is a star. And then a young woman comes who asks Maeve to train her in the art of keening. And through this process of sort of handing over the torch, we get a lot of discussions around grief, around fame, around race and gender, and around tradition.
Yeah.
So it's a really short book, and it's so unique. There's so much depth to it, primarily because of these very public acts, but also these sort of internal discussions about what all this means. And I chose it for this theme because I think that's what this tradition of keening is about, is leading with the heart and like really showing off emotion and serving as a person who acts out the intensity of the emotion and heart behind grief as the mourners work through their own feelings. But then there's all this really interesting stuff too about the act of performance and how it ties to grief. Like, when you're at a funeral, are you crying because you're really upset? Are you crying because you think you should cry? Like, all of these sort of weird levels of it.
Sure.
And when there's a performer doing it, is it real? Is it really heartfelt and emotional? Or is it just like a reality type show going on, right? So the book really grapples with that and what's at the heart of leading with the heart.
Oh my gosh, what a great premise.
Yeah, and it describes quite a few of these sort of public funerals, and her action is, like I said, there's crying, there's screaming, but there's also singing, and there's these loud like chants and prayers, and it's really interesting and intense.
Oh, okay. Well, I, for my other genre pick this week, brought a graphic novel, which I've been experimenting with a little more, thanks to you, because you introduced me to a few good ones, and I try to branch out. This one's called I, Parrot, and this is by Deb Olin Unferth, and the illustrations are by Elizabeth Haydel. This was published in November 2017, so it's a little bit older, but the main character, Daphne, her life is like spinning out of control, seemingly by no fault of her own. She's lost custody of her son to her ex-husband due to an accident, misunderstanding, and she's facing the court system. So she's having to make sure everything on the surface looks good. So this ends up leading her to take a job that pay is not good, and it's a weird job. She does positive meditation recordings that get sent out to all these followers, like, you're wonderful, you can do it today. So she works for this lady who then is kind of tours on a circuit. And before this lady leaves, she says, look, I need your help. I need you to house sit for me, and I'm going to pay you like triple what you make doing this thing, because, by the way, I have the largest collection of parrots anyone known to man, basically. She has all these like really endangered species of parrots that this lady inherited from her uncle when he died, so they're very important to her. So she's like, I guess, how hard can it be to take care of parrots, right? God. Okay. And as you might guess, chaos ensues. So the novel takes place over just a few days of her watching these parrots, and we learn a lot about Daphne's backstory. And like a lot of graphic novels, I feel like it's a very quick read, but it's a very powerful one. And this is what is a weird thing about why I'm bringing it. So when I first finished the novel, I enjoyed the reading experience. I thought, oh, that was great. But I didn't have like a super strong reaction to it where I thought, oh, I'm going to bring this for sure. I'm going to talk about it. Until I read some reviews about it. And then I decided that this was the exact perfect pick for this week, because some of these reviews were blasting the novel for the ending. And they found Daphne to be unsympathetic and basically deserving of all the bad luck she ran into, because she keeps making bad choices. And how dare she? You got to get your son. What are you doing? And the comments really made me realize that this novel really is about leading with your heart and following what's right in there, even when logically it might not make the most sense. Like, maybe logically to someone on the outside, it's like, well, you shouldn't do that if you're in the court system. You should do this. But to her, she was doing what she thought was right and still trying to do the best for her son in the way that she wanted to raise her son, even though there was these other factors involved. And the more that I thought about that, and the more I thought about the book, I just thought, there's so many things in this world that we try and apply logic to. And when it really comes down to it, all it really needs is a little bit of care, concern, and love. And we try to logic all these or assign fault or pick sides in everything, where in reality, most stuff's kind of in the middle. Both people are probably right on a lot of levels. Both people probably have valid arguments, but the solution is probably not one way or the other. It's probably to meld the two ideas. And I guess my response to the criticism really helped illustrate why I think it's important to tell stories like this. You know, they're not... Most things in life are not perfect or wrapped up with a little cute bow. Most characters don't do what we want them to do. And that's true of life. Like, who does, and like we were saying earlier, who reacts the exact way you think they're going to react every time? Like, life is gray area. And we're so set on making it black and white. And I think, you know, this book is such a great reminder that unless you're living it, unless you're there, unless you're as invested as the people in the story, you don't really get to have an opinion.
I love that, because it feels like so many books and so many reviews that we've read, it's very much like thinking like characters and humans are robots. That if you just do this and do this and do this, then everything will be fine.
Exactly.
If you just make this choice and make this choice, boom, done.
Yeah.
And then any sort of complexity or any sort of like realness, it's lambasted.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and that's what and again, I don't want to take away from the fact that I really did enjoy the book prior to reading the criticism. And I didn't have that kind of like visceral reaction to the ending, but sometimes, you know, you read something and you just think, I wonder how this was received a little bit. And so I, on my own cognizant, kind of did that digging. And then when we were talking about the scene this week, I thought, you know, what's perfect for that is this book that seemed almost misunderstood in a way. And there was a lot of people that did obviously get it, and it deserved any of the praise it got. But then there was also this group that just didn't seem to understand.
Yeah.
It's like the exact thing that I think is wrong with society and media, news stories. We always want there to be a winner and a loser.
Yes.
And that's not really the case.
I wonder too, you know, you mentioned that some of them kind of get to that idea of unlikable characters. And I wonder if like unlikable characters are often leading with their heart and leading with emotion that doesn't always make logical sense. And that's why we're just like, ugh.
Well, I think unfortunately, especially in the literary world, unlikable character has transformed. Unlikable character to me is like someone that kind of universally you're like, ooh, that person's off-putting. Like that's, you know, we all know that person in our real life that we're like, they don't rub anyone the right way, or they're always doing something. That's an unlikable character to me. But we started using it in places where characters don't react like we think they should, so they're unlikable. And those are two different things to me, but they seem to have they're like
You're right.
together in writing now. And it relates
to some of that stuff we were talking about, like courts and true crime, where people don't react the way we think that they should be reacting.
Yes, yeah.
So obviously you're wrong or you're unlikable.
And I don't read because I want someone to react the way that I'm going to.
Yeah, no.
Like, that's boring. I want to see how someone else handles the situation. Or that's sort of the fun sometimes, right? Is like, oh, I didn't see that coming because I wouldn't have done that. And then this person did that. You know, it just, we're always so worried about making sure we're with the majority that we sometimes forget that the majority is most of the time wrong.
The majority is most of the time wrong. And the way that we, you know, like sort of conduct society is sort of antithetical to our emotion, to like leading with the heart, to who we are as human beings.
Yeah, exactly.
And so some of our maybe unlikable reactions are because the world's messed up.
Yes, exactly. So messy.
So messy.
So messy.
You know what's messy in a good way?
What?
My pop culture pick.
Ooh.
Like that transition?
Ooh, that was a stellar one. That's a diamond level transition.
Oh, a diamond one?
Yeah.
So on the cult level of like Scientology, like where's diamond level? Am I up in the like upper
You're close.
echelons?
You're getting there. I'm going to need like $100,000 for you to get to platinum level, but you're there.
Right.
You're
So
there.
I'm not quite clear.
No.
I'm still
you're making
working
progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. But if you really want to be clear, then maybe 250 is better. Yeah.
Sounds good.
And you're going to have to join my volleyball league.
Oh, yeah, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's fair.
I can give you all the money in the world, but you make me join a sports league, I'm out. Volleyball. I don't think I'll ever look at volleyball the same after that Nexium documentary.
You know what's weird about that is that this week I was going through my phone. I was trying to find an old picture of something, and for some reason there was a picture, and I must have sent it to you as a joke, of Keith Raniere in volleyball pads and like a sweatband just sitting on a bench looking really sad. And I don't know. I was like, it was in my gallery, and I went through it. And I was like, what is this? yes. And then I was like, oh, I must have sent that at some point. Just thought it was hilarious. But now I want it off.
Yeah, out of context. That's very...
It was alarming.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Pop culture pick.
Yes.
Is a movie.
Okay.
It's called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, yes.
So you may have heard of this. It came out earlier this year in like a few small select theaters, and then it just started expanding and expanding and expanding because everyone could not get over the craziness and the wildness and the wonderfulness of this movie.
Right.
So this has Michelle Yeoh, Jamie Lee Curtis, and the return of Ki-hee Kwan, who was the child actor playing Data in the 1980s movie Goonies. Mm-hmm. And he's come back as an adult actor.
Amazing.
So such a wild and emotional movie. Michelle Yeoh plays Evelyn, who is a Chinese immigrant. And she and her husband, Waymond, own a laundromat. And they're also in the middle of a divorce. Their daughter, Joy, has just recently come out as gay. And then when the movie opens, the family's in tax trouble. They have to go to the IRS and convince Jamie Lee Curtis that their complete mess of tax records is okay. And I'm going to warn you, if you do watch this and you watch what they bring to the IRS, there's going to be a part of you that dies inside.
Okay.
Because their tax records are abysmal and atrocious.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Except that trip to the IRS suddenly turns into something else because Waymond, the husband, has a sort of fit, like he's been taken over. And another version of Waymond then is speaking to Evelyn. Oh. And this version is telling her that he's one of many Waymonds in the multiverse, and she is one of many Evelyns in the multiverse. And the multiverse is in danger from a source of chaos who happens to be their daughter.
Oh.
And in another world, they found a way to jump in the multiverse from one life to another, to like be able to live in this world for a little bit, or to use the skills that they've learned in that world. Okay.
Oh my.
Crazy sci-fi premise.
Yeah.
Right? But we quickly see that this means Evelyn made different choices in the different universes.
Okay.
In one, she listened to her family, who told her not to marry Waymond.
Oh.
In one, she became a huge movie star, kind of like Michelle Yeoh. In one, she became a master of martial arts. Ooh. And there's so many more. This is hilarious, too. Besides, like, the sci-fi, like, craziness and everything, it is... Because some of the other worlds are bizarre. Uh-huh. There is a live-action Ratatouille world where there's, like, an actual, like, raccoon up on the top of the... Okay? There's a world where everyone has hot dog fingers.
Okay, I love that.
And a world where everyone is rocks.
Okay.
So, like I said, to access their selves in other worlds, which they can do, they have to do really insane and ridiculous and hilarious things as well. So there's this major like sci-fi quest to sort of end the chaos that's threatening the multiverse. But then there's also the tax audit. And there's these central relationship problems between husband and wife who are on the brink of divorce, between them and their daughter, and between themselves and their like wishes and desires and disappointments for their life, especially when they see these other lives where they made different decisions. Mm-hmm. And that's why I chose it for this theme, because it's ultimately about love and choosing love and what that means and how you have to keep doing it over and over again. And beyond that, this is a frenzy of eye candy, of insane jokes, and of some really powerful, like emotional performances too. I think it's wonderful because Michelle Yeoh finally gets a movie where she gets to do everything, and she's in her 60s, by the way. And this is and Ki-hee Kwan. There's this great interview that he gave, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel, where he said that he got back into acting after seeing Crazy Rich Asians in the theater. And he was so excited and enlivened by the idea of all this amazing Asian representation. He's like, I want to get back into it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we got back into this, and it's truly remarkable. It's just a wonderful performance. So you get a little bit of everything.
Sounds amazing.
You got to sit down, you got to really focus, and just let this insanity wash over you.
Okay.
And imagine what it's like to have hot dog fingers where you can only use your toes to grab things.
Okay. Well,
and play the piano.
I like it less.
Okay.
I don't like people using their feet to do
stuff.
But
imagine this. In that world, Michelle Yeoh and Jamie Lee Curtis have a little relationship, and they gently touch each other on the face
with their hot dog fingers.
fingers.
Okay, I'm in again. You got me back. Yep, I'm back in. I'm back in. Done. Well, I actually brought a movie as well.
Okay.
And this is kind of, it's a left field one
Oh.
for me. And you can thank my husband Mike for this. But
Okay.
I am recommending that you watch Elvis, the movie.
Oh, my goodness.
It is out. We saw it in the theater. You can watch it now on HBO.
now. Mm-hmm.
You can rent it other places. I just was looking over my notes right before, and I just have a line that says watch it. So I guess I want you to watch it. I don't feeling forceful. It's in all caps. Watch it. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were in a mood when you
I
wrote those
was
notes.
in a mood.
And you were like, listen, I don't need to tell you
I
about
don't
it. Just
need to-
fucking watch it.
Just watch it. I'm
Yeah.
telling you to watch it. Watch it.
Yeah.
So Austin Butler, who I didn't have a lot of knowledge of, I guess he's like a Disney or Nickelodeon, some kind of star. Like he was younger. He was on
okay.
TV. Plays Elvis. And I'm telling you right now, he deserves all of the awards. Anything he can be nominated for, he should be. So I know that when you hear this, you probably think, I know enough about Elvis.
Yeah.
And I felt that way. I went because my husband, for reasons unknown to me, is a huge Elvis fan. So I knew we were going to have to go to the theater and see this. And it's Baz Luhrmann, so there's a certain style to
Yeah.
it, which is incredible right off the bat.
Yeah.
But when I tell you that this movie took me by surprise, it really truly did. It's about so much more than Elvis. We all know kind of the Elvis version, right? He was popular, got into drugs, died on a toilet, Elvis,
Yeah.
right? We all know that. And this isn't really that at all. It has a lot more to do with his struggle to keep what he really enjoyed about music at the forefront, really about leading with emotion. And they make a very clear argument in the movie that when Elvis reached his height of popularity, it was because he was leading with his heart. He was doing what he loved, and he didn't care when people said, that looks weird, or you're not doing that right, or that's not what makes popular music. Or his manager was saying, no, you can't do that. You need to do this. When he ignored that stuff, that's when the crowds they could feel it. Which we know from real life, right?
Yes.
Authenticity, you can feel that,
yeah.
and it's an energy that you want more of. But when then he was put in the position, for some reason, my phone just decided that it needed to listen to me. That was uncomfortable.
Oh, it just turned on and was recording you?
Yeah, like it was like acting like, did I say something that sounded? I don't. It's not
that
Apple.
Elon? Did he turn it on?
Elon,
somehow?
I swear to God, have another kid. I don't want you messing with my phone. Crime and Nitley. Get your shit, or get a tan, because you are alarmingly white.
Well,
and that's from someone who's...
I was going to say, we shouldn't,
Yeah,
judge, but I haven't seen pictures. Is he like transparent?
Yeah,
What?
it's
Oh,
alarming.
Like pasty, real pasty?
like worse.
Oh.
Like almost like he painted his body with baby powder.
Huh. I mean, maybe he's been living in his vault or his bunker. And
It
he's
definitely
just,
gives the impression that he might be from a different planet.
Well, we can't rule it out.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Anyway, there's so much about what actually influenced and inspired Elvis's music, and a lot of things that I think kind of got washed out of his background. Like there's been this feeling that he sort of stole or appropriated
Right.
music, and they really address that a lot and say he did everything he could at the time to basically give credit where credit was due, just no one listened. Like they show clips of like actual videos of Elvis, not, at the end of the movie, of people saying, so you're the king of rock and roll, and him stopping them and be like, no, I'm not. Like, I don't know how many times I told you that I learned that from so and so, and he'll name like a really influential artist, or no, that title goes to... He was very upfront about the fact that he got his start because he went to a revival and he just fell in love with the music when he was feeling at his most vulnerable and like he was being portrayed as something different. He always went back to the heart, which was gospel, and that's what he really felt. And to me, that's what the whole movie is about, is that pull that we all have, like, this is how you're successful, but this is how you really feel.
Yeah.
So what does success really mean? Is it the money and the glory, or is it doing what you really want to do?
And is the success all based on like whatever media wants to tell themselves, and
Exactly.
they're ignoring what he actually said? Huh.
And a lot about when he really, for the things that he had to do behind the scenes to try and get back to that place of what was really important to him. It's a really interesting portrayal. I've been fascinated by this Austin Butler. I watched a few interviews with him. One that he did with Lisa Marie, who said that she was given a cut of the movie before it came out. And she said, I'll be honest, anytime there's something about Elvis, I just dread it because it's always like this very one-dimensional image. And she said, I sat down in my chair, I had my hands on my armchair, and I was just gripped in to just be sick again. And she said, 10 minutes in, and I went, oh my God, they finally did it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like she and Austin Butler's sitting next to her when she says it, and you can just see him be like, And then he explains that he found out that he got this role right before COVID. So he literally spent all of COVID in his apartment, and anyone that interacted with him, he did everything as Elvis.
Oh.
He spoke as Elvis. He ate things Elvis liked. He interacted with people as Elvis. He sang. He said, that's all I did for a year and a half was in my apartment. I lived as Elvis so that I could embody. And when I tell you, it's at the end of the movie, they show like videos of Elvis and they put it up with the videos of Austin Butler playing Elvis. You can't tell the difference.
Wow.
Even though you just watch the whole video,
Yeah.
you know that it's not, you're like, this is so uncanny. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
And it was one of the first times I understood the Elvis craze.
I remember you telling me this after you saw the movie. You're like, I maybe finally get the whole like hip thing and the whole like, magnetism that like
Yes.
girls were all over him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a scene real quick. It's probably within the first 20 minutes. He comes out and he's in the pink suit and he comes out and he does that like gyration thing. And something about the way that they wrote that scene and did it, you're like, this is what was I get it now. I get it. Because there was something so attractive about someone being so comfortable with themselves.
Yeah.
Especially in a time when that wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
And that was something I didn't realize about him either, is that there's a lot of people that kind of act like they created Elvis, right? And you find out that that's so not true. Like, he came into this with his own style. He had his own style clear back when he was like going to school and wasn't popular. That was very similar to what he had on stage, and he did not give two shits. He was like, no, this is what I like to wear. Like the pink suit, people were like, you can't wear that. A guy cannot wear a pink suit on stage, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna. And just, he did not ever care. They do that a lot in the movie. They would like bring him things and he'd be like, I'm not wearing that. That's ridiculous. And then he would put on, his outfit with the cape. Like it was, I don't know. It just created a whole different kind of image of him that I wasn't expecting. And I think it's worth it just for that. It's worth it for kind of the musical influences, and just to see that guy perform was unbelievable.
That's really cool. And that's, I saw that it came out on HBO recently and I haven't watched it yet, but that was one of the reasons I wanted to, is because you said like you finally got why he was such a big deal.
Yes.
And I never, like, growing up, I think because we were the next generation, we just didn't quite get it. Like,
Right,
he just
right.
wasn't, he was more old fashioned than anything, or we knew him in his weird like gospel bloated age, and
Right. Yeah.
and that wasn't. So I'm looking forward to seeing it based
It is
on that.
great. And
Yeah.
even the whole story of that Christmas special, which is very pivotal, it's in the movie, that was fascinating to me. There's so many things in there that I just didn't know, and I was really impressed by, and felt like, man, to not have that story told is such a disservice to kind of his legacy. And it also makes sense why he has such a lasting legacy now, like why it sort of transcends, like we're in this generation having an Elvis movie that's popular.
Yeah.
It seems like almost against
Yeah,
what
like
you would
70
think.
years later.
Yeah. So I really highly recommend it. I don't think that there's anyone that can't get into it on some level.
Awesome.
And Baz Luhrmann brought his typical style to it, and it works.
I do love a Baz Luhrmann style.
Yeah, it's good. It's real good.
Do you remember seeing like Romeo and Juliet for the first time? His Romeo. That
Yes.
was
Blew me away.
I loved
Blew
that,
me
just like that
away.
very frenetic, like crazy. Yeah.
And that's how it is at the beginning of this. Like, you get there and within 10 minutes you're watching Baz Luhrmann, because it's like this real, like when he's first starting out on the circuit and they're just getting popular. So they're basically playing like these little carnivals.
Yeah.
And it's like they're going from place to place to place, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is, I
Awesome.
love this. I love
Yeah.
everything about this. So
Well, I'm glad, Baz Luhrmann, you're still around and you're still doing your thing.
I'm too. What a topic to take on. I like it.
Good recommendation. I may just watch that tonight.
It's something. It's something. I'm telling you.
If I text you and say, "Oh, I'm feeling things," then
Yeah.
you'll know what I mean.
Because that's what I text you.
Yeah, you did.
I'm in the
You
theater
did.
and I have feelings.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. Didn't expect that."
No, neither did
But
I.
good for you.
Neither did I. And I will tell you, I went in because it's like 2.5 hours or something. It's a fairly long movie.
So you went in not leading with emotion. You were leading with just like, I have to
wanna
do
do
this for my relationship.
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
I was like, this is really important to Mike. I'm going to do this. I wasn't super looking forward to the long movie. And then I was like, I'd watch it again immediately. So, way to go.
Are you saying way to go to your husband or to you?
To
or
Baz Luhrmann
to Baz?
and Austin
Okay.
Butler,
Okay.
pretty much, yeah.
Good job. Yeah.
And Elvis, I guess.
But
in a
also
way.
to you, because you took one for the team and you went to
Trooper.
that movie, and then it converted you.
It did convert me.
You got converted.
I got converted. I almost and got into a cult, an
Yeah, you
Elvis
did.
cult.
Oh no.
And now, I pulled myself back
Okay.
from the edge,
good.
but
Yeah. Got to be vigilant about those cults.
You do. You have to be very careful. It can go bad fast. So fast. Wow.
So leading with the heart and the emotion isn't always a bad thing.
No, not
It's
always.
not something to be made fun of. It's not a pussy thing.
No, neither is being a vegan.
Thank you
Yeah.
for reinforcing that.
It's actually hard. Do you feel like that's like what most people are actually saying is like, I couldn't do that? Because I feel like
There's
I've witnessed a lot of conversations that are like, well, I couldn't live without cheese. So I'm like, you're calling someone a pussy, but in reality, what you're saying is like, I can't even pretend to attempt to understand how to work that into my life. I mean, crying out loud, they've made keto or keto or however you say it way easier.
Yes.
And that, I mean, you cut out bread. What's wrong with you?
Yes. And that is so bad for you. So bad for your body system.
So bad for your heart. Oh, boy.
Good God.
Oh, boy.
But you're right. If you brand anything as a diet, it will immediately take off and everyone's fine with it no matter how crazy
I feel like if
is.
you just said that about vegan, you're like, well, I'm just doing this to lose weight. People would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they'd be willing to work around it.
Yes.
But then because it's like, well, no, it's actually for a better reason. They're like, oh, well.
Because it's ethics. They're like, what? Come on, with your
Ew.
big words.
Ew.
Gross.
Ew. Too bad we're going to the steakhouse and you're coming.
Which has happened multiple times.
I said that from a real life.
Yes,
I almost
you
said the name of
did.
a restaurant and then I brought it back.
I almost did as well. And brought that back.
Brought it right back.
Yep.
Right back. The great news is that we're headed into
We're gonna be back.
episode 122
Oh my God.
with another one-hit wonder. Who knows who we're going to bring next time?
Who knows?
You got Delight this time.
Also, one more thought. Did you ever see the movie That Thing You Do?
Yes.
Oh, I loved that movie.
I watched that so many times.
Because it was about a one-hit wonder, which is
Yeah.
what it made me think of. And they
maybe
called
that
themselves the
should be our theme
Wonders.
next.
I mean, that could work.
That could work.
Such a fun movie. I love it. Yeah.
It might have to be. We'll let you know.
We'll let you know. We'll
Come
think
back.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have to think about it on air.
No.
We'll make those decisions
Listen,
outside
we might
of...
do a different one and then do that one in like 4 episodes.
You never know.
Never
You
know.
never know.
You never know. On your toes. In the meantime,
Happy reading.